Calls for self-determination reduce, with both Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Boko standing trial in different courts. But why self-determination, and is there a right way to go about it? A senior advocate will be joining us to provide answers. And complaints continue over last weekend's local government elections in Lagos, even as winners receive certificates of return. And also, you do not want to miss our review of the papers this morning or our top trending issues and today in history. We'll say good morning and welcome to the breakfast here on PlusTvAfrica. It's a beautiful Thursday morning. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope that we're going to be having a very interesting next 2 hours. I am Osaogi Ogbonwa. Just before we get into the main business of today, of course, and that's our major discussions on self-determination and also, allegations of rigging and, chaos in the last Lagos State local government elections. Let's quickly share with you, top trending stories. I'll start, first of all, with the Olympics, where news has broken that 10 Nigerian athletes are being sent back from Tokyo for failing with regards the anti-doping rules. The story basically says that there are certain doping checks, that are meant to be carried out every couple of weeks, and yes, in the build-up to the Olympics, that these Nigerian athletes failed to carry out. It really mostly blames the Nigerian sports ministry and the athletes, whoever is in charge of the athletes who failed to carry out these tests. It says, and I'll quickly share that under the framework of Rule 15, which governs the National Federation of Anti-Doping Obligations, which came into force in January 2019, national federations are accountable for ensuring appropriate anti-doping measures are in place in their respective jurisdictions. Among other things, the rule sets out minimum requirements for testing on the national teams of Category A. Yes, Nigeria is in Category A federations, which are deemed to have the highest doping risk and considered a threat to the overall integrity of the sport. It goes on to say, the key requirement of Rule 15 is that an athlete from a Category A country must undergo at least 3 no-notice out-of-competition tests, urine and blood, conducted no less than 3 weeks apart in the 10 months leading up to a major event. Only then do they become eligible to represent their national team at the World Athletics Championships and or the Olympic Games. And that is where some of these Nigerian athletes, fell short. About 23 of them went into the Olympic Games, but 10 of them, are going to be sent back. Nigeria apparently has the highest number of athletes that will be sent back. There's also Belarus with 3 athletes, Bahrain with, 0, Ethiopia with 1 athlete being sent back, 2 from Kenya, 1 from Morocco, Nigeria with 10, Ukraine with 3. Being sent back. The blame really, and I've seen response to this, in different media. The blame, goes between the athletes and, of course, the Nigerian Athletics, Federation, Nigerian Athletics team, who, basically failed to carry out these tests, who, maybe wasn't aware of these requirements and went on to put these 23 names forward for the Tokyo Olympics, who, failed to understand that these things were, were needed, who failed to understand that Nigeria was a Category A country and needed to carry out tests 3 weeks apart, 10 months to the build-up to the Olympics. There has to be questions asked. It cannot be because they forgot. It cannot be because, somebody wasn't aware that these, tests were required. And so, that's where we are. 10 of them are going to be sent back. It brings back the question really about systems and institutions and the way that things should work in Nigeria. There doesn't have to be, hard and fast rule to everything. There doesn't have to be, force with everything that we do. There are certain systems that just should be in place. And, I always ask, and I think I've said this many, many times, who gets to be blamed when we hear of things like this? Who really gets to suffer the consequences of this, and will the Minister of Sports, Sunday Dare, get to answer these questions? Will he get to ask whoever it is that is responsible for this, certain questions? Will people be fired? Will we learn mistakes from these type of things? It doesn't seem very likely because of, looking back in our history and seeing how things have always happened. It's sad for the athletes. I don't blame them. I blame, the Athletics Federation and everybody who should have known that these athletes should have been tested 3 weeks apart, 10 months to the build up to the election, not the election now, the Olympics, and failed to do that. And if, of course, send them to the Olympics knowing that these things were required. It's such a shame. But, I hope that, they will learn lessons from this, and whoever it is that is left, out of the 23 that went, will be able to bring back a medal of some sort, bronze, silver, maybe gold. We'll see how it goes. But of course, we will continue to wish every Nigerian who is participating in the Olympics the very best. Also, trending this morning, let's come down here, still in Nigeria. It's been reported by the Nigerian Immigration Service, a memo that was released, that bandits are moving from different states, mostly from Zamfara to Borno State, to receive training. The Nigerian Immigration Service put out a memo yesterday and, reported this, and also stated that there's some former Boko Haram members who, of course, probably have been forgiven by the Nigerian government, but have been moving outside Nigeria to, I'll quickly share, I think it's, they're moving to totally different country. I'll see if I can quickly confirm that. To also receive training. They are former Boko Haram members, and they've been moving to either Pakistan, or some other country like that to receive training as they try to set up, a base here. Oh, yes, they're moving to Libya for various reasons, to join the Islamic State of West Africa province, or, to receive further training. When you see stories like this, you always, of course, would have some panic as to what type of training they are receiving, where is our fight against insurgency leading, what more steps do we need to take, and how sincere really is the government with regards to fight against insurgency. How much of our territory is still in control of the bandits? How much more work do we need to do? How much more funding do our security agencies need? I've always said, and of course it's pretty much the same thing that a lot of analysts have mentioned, that, if we truly are sincere and we have the actual political will to end insurgency, it is believed that we would have ended this a long time ago. It is the audacity with which these things happen, the fact that we currently have people roaming around the streets in certain parts of Nigeria, calling themselves terrorists and Islamists and bandits, going to receive training here and there, maybe to also get more weapons, maybe to also learn how to, to use these weapons. If you remember, in the last few months, a couple of, about 1 or 2 Nigerian Air Force jets have been shot down, reportedly, by these terrorists. And so there's a lot more damage that can be done when these people receive this reported training that has been mentioned by the Nigerian Immigration Service. How much more intelligence do we need to gather? Those are the questions that I would always ask. How much more intelligence do we need to gather? How much more funding do the security agencies need? And in times when, we are failing to achieve these things, who gets to be fired or replaced? Do we need to change tactics? How do these weapons get into Nigeria? In the last couple of years, we've dealt with this for about a decade now. In the last decade, how much do you know has changed with regards to our border control and the inflow of weapons into Nigeria? Because I'm sure that you know that these weapons aren't being made here in Nigeria. They're not produced here. They are, smuggled into the country through various, channels. So how much more has been done with regards closing some of those borders in those, states in the north where those weapons flow in through? The connections that they have, how many people have been arrested. We mentioned this sometime last week, and I asked these same questions. How many people have been arrested or have been spoken to? How many names have you seen, that the Nigerian government suspects are responsible for funding or financing these terrorist groups? And that includes the bandits, that includes also the kidnappers and whoever it is. If we don't start to do the things that are necessary, we will continue to deal with this for the next 10 years or even more. Nobody wants that, but we need to be honest with ourselves with regards what we are doing to end insurgency and end banditry in Nigeria. The body language of the Nigerian government doesn't seem, and I hope that I am wrong, but it doesn't seem to be honest enough or sincere enough with regards to ending terrorism here in Nigeria. There's so many questions that I believe that are still not being asked. There's so much more that is still not being done. We cannot tell ourselves that in the last 10 years we've not been able to point out 5, 10, 1, 3, 7 people that have received funding for terrorism. that have, maybe allowed terrorists into Nigeria. There's no way that we can tell ourselves that. And so sometimes it gets tiring to talk about these things, but we still need to, remind everyone that we need to be honest with ourselves with regards to what we're doing fighting terrorism in Nigeria. It's sad, it hurts, and for every time that the government fails to ask these questions, for every time that an arrest is meant to be made because a person assisted a terrorist, assisted, with funding, or assisted with negotiation, whatever it is, it puts the lives of villagers and citizens in Zamfara and Borno and Yobe and Katsina and all those places, Nasarawa, any state that you can mention, even in Benue and down here in the south, it puts the lives of people, dozens, hundreds of people at risk, because these people continue to flourish and to thrive and to receive whatever assistance that they can receive without, proper checks being put in place. I understand the NIN and, the reason behind, telling Nigerians to go register their SIM cards and all of that. But you don't expect a terrorist to go register his SIM card. You don't expect that, a bandit is going to go to, any of the telecommunications offices or to NIMC and get his SIM card registered. So there's a whole lot more that needs to be done. I'll move on from there, and then, of course, now I'll move to our next trending story, and that is about Nigerian celebrity, Instagram sensation, Rich Kid, one of the very most popular people on Instagram for a couple of years until his arrest, and that is Raymond Abbas. That's his name, I believe. Yes, Raymond Abbas, popularly known as Hush Puppy. Yesterday, of course, news broke that he has pled guilty to internet fraud in the United States and very likely will be serving maybe as high as 20 years in prison. He's also been, made to forfeit about $25 million. He reportedly stole about $40 million from a law firm and nearly also stole or conned an unnamed Premier League club of $124 million. He, of course, has pled guilty. There's some plea bargain that has been arranged or has been agreed with him and his lawyers and the U.S. Justice Department, and very likely will be sentenced in the next couple of weeks, and also made to forfeit millions and millions of dollars. I'm not sure what the reactions to this will be, but it's mostly about, what these things really tell about institutions and about a justice system and about how things really should work. I'm going to focus mostly on the period of investigation, the prosecution, his arrest, and the time that he has been in and out of, court before, of course, now pleading guilty. All this has not taken up to a year. This is, just in the space of a couple of months, maximum 1 year. It's definitely not been up to a year. But I want you to put that side by side with how cases are run here in Nigeria, where, of course, we heard not long ago that a case has been adjourned till October. I think Nnamdi Kanu's case has been adjourned all the way till October. And eventually, you might see that case drag on for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. That was exactly as, was granted bail yesterday and has been incarcerated for more than 4 or 5 years. So these, are the points that I want to make concerning Hush Puppy's case, about him being, a fraudster and some of all of that. I'm sure that a lot of Nigerians have already gone through, those lessons and have learned the lessons, even if we are still hearing of Nigerians being arrested for fraud. But that's not, for me, my major point. My point really is about the justice system and being able to actually investigate, make an arrest, investigate and, of course, find facts before making an arrest. And when the arrest is made, the period between when you're arrested and when you go to court and, how that really just flows. It seems like a system that has been put in place to ensure free flow, within the justice system that I really hope that we'll be able to get to here in Nigeria. Institutions and systems, no personality. Yesterday we spoke about Danladi Umar, the CCT chairman, who is, his case has been, almost dropped by the National Assembly, and questions very likely will no longer be asked because he went to court and challenged the authority of the National Assembly to, investigate him, which of course he has a right to do. But what these things tell Nigerians is that when you get to a particular level, you seem to be bigger than the institutions. Individuals seem to be bigger than institutions, and they, can no longer be touched. And that is one of the challenges that Nigerians have had, with, our justice system for a very, very long time, and with the fight against corruption. And, we really should be able to put in place a system where nobody is above being questioned and nobody is above being arrested. Nobody is above being investigated except, well, those who have immunity. And, maybe we'll get to a place where, there's certain levels of immunity that should even be discarded. But nobody should be above the justice system here in Nigeria. And that is what Hush Puppy is, getting to experience now. The fact that when you're in the U.S., it's totally different from when you're here in Nigeria. There was those who had spoken about, the timing when he was arrested. There were people who said, oh, if he was arrested here in Nigeria, very likely he would have been out by now. But, of course, the justice system over there is totally different. And very likely he will do time for his crimes. These are our top trending stories this morning. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going through the major news stories making headlines across Nigeria today with our guest, a public affairs analyst, Ezekiel Nyaetok. Stay with us. Good morning once again. Welcome once again to The Breakfast here on PlusTvAfrica. And now let's go to Off the Press, where we, of course, have a review of the major stories making headlines across Nigeria today. I'm starting with the Nation newspapers, should be on your screen in just a few seconds. And, of course, we'll be introducing our guest after reading through the papers. The big one that you see on your screen there, it says, Akeredolu verdict, danger ahead, Keyamo warns APC. Also, why I want to lead the APC, and that is by Yari. Government losing millions in lottery. States get conditions to access World Bank's $750 million. Also, Naira slides to 522 Naira to a dollar after ban on Forex for BDCs. A scary story here. It says here, Lagos Island may go under by 2050. U.S. lawmakers halt arms sale to Nigeria. And, of course, it's citing Nigeria's human rights record. It also shows up in other papers that I'll share. Shiite leader El-Zakzaky and wife free. Of course, a court gave a ruling yesterday, and I believe that they have been released. Abducted Tejina pupils kept in 25 camps, and also awaiting UCOM members die in road crashes. That's a sad story. Also on the Nation this morning, federal government Twitter begin talks over ban, and Hush Puppy faces 20 years jail term after pleading guilty. Moving on to the Nigerian Tribune this morning. The big one, you can see there, says U.S. lawmakers block sale of $875 million weapons to Nigeria, cite poor human rights record. Also on the Tribune, Delta variant, U.S. to ship 4 million COVID-19 vaccine doses to Nigeria. APC Congress's Buni insists on consensus option, warns against media war. Outages as electricity grid collapses again. That happened yesterday. And also states get September deadline on $750 million SFTAS grant. We can also find on the Nigerian Tribune this morning, alleged homicide, court discharges and acquits El Zakzaki and wife. Police rescue 13 kidnapped Naval Engineering College students in Edo State. Gunmen strike again in Imo, behead 2 persons. And food insecurity looms in northern Nigeria. UN FAO warns. From the Tribune this morning, let's see what we can find on the Punch. Federal government lines up 36 billion naira for COVID-19 third wave. 4,261 cases recorded in 30 days. Says also the federal government told us each state will receive 1 billion naira before the end of July, says the Benue commissioner. Federal government states officials meet next week, plan how coronavirus cash will be spent. Buhari hails judgment, justice divided as Supreme Court affirms Akeredolu's victory. And also federal government moves to avert fresh strike, meets ASU on Friday. We're in talks with bandits on 83 Kaduna Baptist students, says Khan. And we can also find IMN celebrates as a court frees El Zakzaki and wife after a 6-year detention. NYSC mourns as 5 camp-bound corps members die in crash. And also, listen, IPOB threatens mayhem over Kanu's detention, gives August 8 deadline. 1 or 2 others, APC Congress is under threat as Supreme Court declares Buni's chairmanship illegal. And also, Senate names Jonathan and Sambo in 665.8 billion naira diversion, demands refund. I'm going to quickly rush to the daily independent newspapers. Presidency begins search for credible successor to Buhari, and that regards the 2023 election. Enlist fact-finding group to do checks on APC aspirants. Powerful forces plan to prevail on Tinubu to back younger candidate. Also, Nigeria to produce COVID-19 vaccine in 2022, says the PSN. Buhari considers increase in education budget by 50% till 2023. National grid collapses again as blackout spreads. And also U.S. lawmakers stop $875 million arms sale to Nigeria. Ask Biden to reassess U.S.-Nigeria relations amid human rights concerns. We can also see here, APC, Akeredolu, Sanwo-Olu, Lord Supreme Court verdict on Ondo gubernatorial elections. Court frees Zakzaki and wife, says they have no case to answer. And also the Naira suffers its biggest fall at 522 Naira to a dollar after CBN Forex ban to BDCs. Analysts see further devaluation of Naira soon. We'll say good morning to Mr. Ezekiel Nya-Etok. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and it's always a pleasure to be on Plus TV Africa.
Good to see you this morning. A lot of interesting stories, some of them good, some of them really, shocking. I'll start with the block of arms sale to Nigeria by U.S. lawmakers, of course, citing human rights record and human rights abuse. What do you think of this? It's not the first time. I believe it happened under former President Goodluck Jonathan's administration. But once again, we're seeing, a similar situation.
I think that Nigerians must understand that we've become a global village and that whatever is going on is known and seen all over. A lot of times we play the ostrich. We think that by burying our heads in the sand while our bodies are exposed that we are hidden, but we're not. Everything that is going on in Nigeria today, if you look at your scroll bar, if you look at the number of children that are being held on a daily basis and what is being done about it, and then there are other things that maybe the effort that is being made to go across the country to bring people like Boko back or to bring Nnamdi Kanu back. You know, you just want to be a rational mind and sit down and ask yourself very fundamental questions. To what extent is the federal government committed to the security and welfare of the people? To what extent is the fight against terrorists national? Or to what extent does it appear to be a sectional interest play? And where you cannot find that line that shows that this is a national fight, then countries like the US will ask themselves, am I wanting to be a part of, sectional victimization, which they could claim it to be so? So these are things that we really need to come and sit down and interrogate. I keep using that word virtually every time because it's absolutely important that we start to think. We have enough. Nigeria is blessed with some of the most cerebral people in the whole world. And yet when it comes to our governance, we seem to have a mental block, which I really can't understand. The American government, I mean, when you know America, that the dollar is virtually everything, dollar, money, 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 you know, the Benjamins and all those things. And they come to a point of saying, please keep your, in it, $875 million, keep it. We don't need it. Go and improve your human rights record. By the time it gets to the point where the American government can say, keep the money, we don't want it, then you know that it's come to a point where we, the citizens, and it brings me to a point that I always talk on virtually all the time, and that is that our focus needs to shift from those in government to those of us that occupy the office of the citizen. We need to come and start thinking of our country, because it's become crystal clear that those in government and those of us that are occupying the office of the citizen, we seem to be singing from two song sheets. We seem to be speaking two different languages. We don't seem to be connecting. We don't seem to be communicating. And this is a time for us to go back to look at those fundamentals. So I'm not surprised that America is taking that
All right, so before we move on to a different story, does this or should this be something we should worry about with regards to the fight against insurgency? If we can't buy weapons from the United States, should we be worried that this might give the terrorists an upper hand, or can we then maybe also look to a different source of weapons? And remember also, we spoke about Tucano jets not long ago, sometime last week.
Yeah. Great perspective there. We have a way of having, I repeat this word, mental block. A situation like this, the action is one. The intention, that is the reason behind the action, is important. They've refused to sell weapons to us. Great. Why have they refused? Because if it's that they don't like Nigeria, we can call their bluff and tell them to go to hell. If it is that they think that the lives of Nigerians don't matter to the operators of the system, then for goodness sake, we should take sides with them. And now the second part is they are refusing to sell the weapons to us, affect us because of the fight against the insurgency. Now, when we take sides with them, we can pressure our government to do the right thing and appeal to the Americans to see reason to have a rethink, because right now it is more of a recommendation and action has not been taken. So we that occupy the office of the citizen should come in fast to have an interface with them, an interaction, and say, please, exactly what is the problem? And then bring government to commit to addressing those issues so that they can give us the weapons and then we can prosecute the war against these terrorists. Because I'm joining those who say they should not be called insurgents, they should be called terrorists. Absolutely. I am endorsing that motion.
All right. Hopefully we can have a longer conversation about it. But let's move to El Zakzaki and his wife now. been incarcerated for more than 5 years, I believe since 2015. And finally, of course, got released yesterday. The IMN is celebrating. Is this, something that you're maybe also happy about?
It's something that gives me cause for concern. That could have been me. That could have been my mother. That could have been my brother. That could have been my father. That could have been my uncle. That could have been my friend. What is the fate of Nigerians on social system? It's one thing for you to say the man has been incarcerated for about 6 years. Another thing for you to know that during this period, he's lost about 4 of his children. During this period, he's lost his eye. During this period, his health has deteriorated. During this period, his means of livelihood, the people that he came out to say, these are my flock that I'm to take care of. At the end of the day, what level of restitution can you do as a government, as a people, to make up for such humongous monumental loss? Now, we come back to the fundamentals again. Why did this happen and how did it happen? Was it a mistake where all humans were bound to make mistakes? Or is it a certain policy of government that we must not keep quiet and allow it to continue? Why would somebody's freedom be that tampered with so terribly? I think we need to come back to, I was listening to what you were saying about hush puppy. Now, this is a person that committed a crime, and within a reasonable time, the crime is addressed. And like you rightly acknowledged, we have held Nnamdi Kanu, and then bring him to court. Oh, he cannot be produced. All right, I give you the whole of August, September, October. How many months for you to produce him? During this period, what happens to his life? During this period, what happens to his family? For you to even start the process, you hit so many months ahead so that he can be brought to court. I mean, does it really make sense? Is there an intention behind this? Is it a buy-time strategy? Is this not somebody's life? If that guy is culpable, if he has committed the crime, he's got to do the time. I don't care who is. I don't care about him. I care about the fact that we just don't care about human lives.
Yeah, I would also mention...
If he has done something wrong, jail him.
Yeah.
Don't keep him. Okay, what happens if you bring him in October, I think they say, and then you start the trial, 4 years down the line, you say, oh, he's done nothing wrong. He's discharged and acquitted. What happens to his life? We need to look back at our justice system and know what we should accept and what we should not
Absolutely.
accept.
And still on El Zakzaky, one point that I always like to make and remind Nigerians is, there is still, no actual questions asked about what happened on, that day in 2015 when he was arrested, where, according to government figures, 347 of those, Shiites were killed. There's still no proper investigation or explanation how 300 plus Nigerian lives were wasted in 24 to 48 hours. And nobody still has been asked any questions. So nobody still is being probed. And I feel that's really one of the parts of this conversation that I feel like we should never forget or ignore. And I don't really want to care how long it would take. If it takes us 5, 6, 7, 10 years to ask those questions once again, I feel that Nigerians should ask those questions because those were Nigerian lives, regardless of what crimes they were alleged to have been committed. They were extrajudicially killed, and they should never be just forgotten that way.
Yes, go on.
Well, you can quickly respond to that before we move to something else.
It's absolutely important. Let me say this for the records. One day, there's going to be a real truth and reconciliation panel or commission or inquiry in this country. I'm telling you this for a fact. You said something, and I agree with you. It could take 5 years. It could take 10 years. But let the people who think that they've gotten away not forget history. It happened in the past. It happened in other places. We cannot forget South Africa so soon. One day, And this is where the office of the citizen comes in. I want to appeal to Nigerians. All this, coming here to be able to deliberate, to be able to discuss, to be able to talk, they are good. Analysis, they are good. But the time, look, I've gone to join a political party. I've gone to join one, ADC, I've joined one. Let Nigerians go and get registered. Let Nigerians join political parties. Let us wake up to our responsibility as citizens. Enough of this nonsense. Look, the politicians are playing their game. They are bringing us to the turf they want to find us on, sitting and talking. And 2023 comes, they bring back their people, they do what they want to do. We come back to television and keep doing the analysis. I have decided, I don't care about any other person. For me as an individual, I'm not only joining a political party, I'm already registered. I am going to contest. If I fail, I fail. There's something that Mr. Donald Duke said, and I loved it. He said, if you try, you might fail. If you don't, you are destined to have failed already. I'm going to do it, and I'll do it to the way that my children, when the record is written, they'll say, this is what our father, this is what our grandfather, this is what our great-grandfather did. That's what I want to say. The question is, what are you and I doing today outside of analysis and allowing these people to run our lives and just wreck this country for nothing's sake? A country as great, as endowed as Nigerians. We should wake up as citizens, stop the analysis, and join a party. Any party you want, I don't care. Join, get registered, get your children to register, get your staff, get your wards to register. Let's go to that poll. 2023 is going to be about the institution and the citizens. And I tell you, the power of the citizens is always higher and mightier anytime, any day, anywhere than the power of the institution, because the citizens set the institutions and we get what we deserve. We want a Nigeria that works.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Let's talk now about the dollar, the exchange rate. It's risen to 522, has never been this high. And that is, as a result of the CBN's directive to stop foreign exchange to BDCs, basically. What's your response to
that? This might shock a lot of people. I agree with CBN. My concern is the level of sincerity. That's my greatest concern. My concern number two is the person of Mr. Emefiele. To what extent he's willing to let his conscience guide him, lead him, rule him, and like Esther, he's willing to say, if I perish, I perish. He sits down because he's going to step on very hard toes. He's going to be blackmailed. He's going to be maligned. He's going to be all sorts of things. But we've got to take some very hard decisions that will bring this economy back on track. This thing about, the round tripping with cash, the banks get their money instead of giving to businessmen, they bring to the CDB, the Bureau de Change, so that they can have the differential. Why do we let the dollar take its proper rate, whatever it is? We will suffer it, but if we are sincere with it, with time, it's going to come down and stabilize at what makes sense. This thing that Mr. Sanusi said, the former central bank governor, the revered emir, and he said that former emir or the post emir, he said that some people are sitting down in their parlors and raking in money in billions because of the sales of the differentials. And we that have business to do cannot find the money. And as a result, we're suffering. So I think that, one, we should not do this break and quench. This was done before, and then pressure caused it to be reversed to the best of my knowledge. Let's put our foot down. Let the Naira take its course, and let people be able to walk in and get legitimate money. And how do you explain a white man or a guy, he goes to Bureau de Change and he just buys dollars, no documentation whatsoever? I mean, everybody knows that. And it's not okay. That's on one hand. On the second hand, what is the policy of government? Let the banks handle it so that if you are buying a certain volume of money, we have an idea of where you want to deploy the money. Because this today, corruption has been dollarized. If you want to pay somebody 5 million naira, 20 million, instead of carrying all the cash, you just go and buy dollars, people will now pay bribes and, all this, whatever, in dollars. So we are having a high demand for dollars, not for investment, but as kickback, premiums. And I think that this policy, I endorse it, I agree with it, but for goodness sake, if it is just a flash in the pan, God will hold those people responsible. But if it's something that is well-intentioned, we should go along with it, and it's worth it at the end of the day.
Well, a few of the comments I've seen, speaking about the commercial banks' capacity to actually handle the FX across Nigeria, the demand for FX across Nigeria, and how this might, make also, make the exchange rate continue to rise because of their incapacity to handle demand for FX across the country. Those are some of the concerns. But hopefully, they will find a balance at some point.
Challenges give you opportunity for you to seek practical solutions. Central bank oversees the commercial banks. Let them set up an independent report desk where, there's something I set up. I don't know to what extent I want to talk about it here now, but I set up what we call the national eye, okay? The best way to fight fraud. Fraud is afraid of light. It's afraid that, fraud thrives in secrecy, in darkness. The moment you bring in light, where you don't know who is watching you, you are bound to be a little more careful. The EFCC, I'm happy they've set up an arm of it, which they call the Eagle Eye. I had proposed this over 2 years ago. I still think we need to have the national eye. And I'm still working with it with them, maybe the Senate committee, and to see what can be done, so that when people know that when you do something funny, somebody else can report you and get action, people will do the right thing. The commercial banks, a lot of times people make things to be very difficult. Wherever you see people making things to be difficult, there's a reason. They are to discourage you, so that they can distract you and do what they want to do. The commercial banks who have been making money from this can deliberately frustrate the citizens and get the citizens to start to shout, go back to the Bureau de Change, go back there. They could be doing it deliberately. So the central bank, as of today, should know that and set up a policy, a principle where they can very terribly, seriously, penalize the commercial banks that frustrate this working. Because if it works, Nigerians will move on. But if they can frustrate the process, we are processing it. Let them give timelines, let them give guidelines, let them give principles, and this sort of decision should not have been taken except they are putting those principles in place, those guidelines. And anybody that dares to flout it becomes an economic saboteur, a national economic saboteur, and should be dealt with a very, very special hand. Yeah. I believe this is doable. Central bank just needs to put its acts together and get it done.
Well, it's back again, bringing, the conversation to systems and how we should be able to improve on the way systems, run, in Nigeria. It shouldn't be based on relationships or, or personalities. It should be simply setting up institutions and systems that just work. And if we don't get to fix those, then we're going to, remain in the same circle. The corruption may not go. And no matter how big the eye is, Mr. Airtalk, like you mentioned, no matter how big this Nigerian eye is, it doesn't matter. For me, if you don't have systems that check corruption, you will continue to catch people, but people will continue to look out for ways to beat being caught. So it has to be systems that simply just are in place to ensure that graft, doesn't continue to happen.
Let me say this. You need to think through this. Who is to set up the system? The person that is deliberately subverting the system so as to benefit from it? Is that the person? That's against the law of self-preservation. That is why we need to go back to leadership recruitment. There is too much governance in our politics, whereas there should be too little politics in our governance. People are getting, their governance has become a commercial enterprise. We need to sit down. A man who knows that he cannot get free, fair, credible election, he cannot get elected on free, fair, credible principles. You want that man to give you credible election, he's not going to do it. So it is time for us, the citizens. I said this some time back. I went with the former, CME, the Madam Okonjo-Iweala, to the World Bank on a project on housing, and I was pleasantly surprised, shocked about when at that place during the meeting, we talked about the Land Use Act, in Nigeria. It was the World Bank officials that said, Ezekiel, this is not going to change. Let's walk around it. And that expression has continued to reverberate in my mind. Let's walk around it. These people are not going to give you the systems and you are talking and processes. They will not. But we, the citizens, have to find a way of walking around to bring people that mean well. If today we want to have a governor in Anambra State, what are our profiling parameters? What are the people of Anambra State thinking? Are they thinking their party? Are they thinking their clansmen? Or are they thinking competence and their state, how they can recruit the best? Maybe one small party has somebody that is not very popular, does not have too much money. What stops the elite in Anambra State thinking of their state and putting their weight behind that person, putting their institutions, putting the system is bigger than APC. The system is bigger than APGA. The system is bigger than PDP. The system, the people are bigger than all those three parties combined.
All right.
And all it takes is for the elites to come in and say, we need something that makes sense, profile those people, put their weight behind the best, and we'll have a new system of people defending whoever is the most competent. That will force parties to start bringing the most competent as candidates and not just bringing anybody and thinking they'll win because they're party.
Ezekiel Yannitok, thank you so much for your time this Thursday morning. Always interested in hearing your perspective. And we wish you a great day ahead.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Stay with us. The 29th of July in 2018 and in 1966, I'll be sharing with you what happened on this day many years ago.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Welcome back to the breakfast on PlusTvAfrica. Now let's go back in history, and I'll start with 2018, where there was a massive street protest in Bangladesh on this day in 2018, 29th of July 2018, over road safety. It was a series of public protests in Bangladesh advocating improved road safety, and it held from the 29th of July to the 8th of August in 2018. They were sparked really by the deaths of two high school students in Dhaka, struck by a bus operated by an unlicensed driver who was racing to collect passengers. The incident impelled students to demand safer roads and stricter traffic laws, and the demonstrations rapidly spread throughout Bangladesh. The government arrested several protesters and a photographer for giving an interview about the protest to international media. And of course, there continued to be a crackdown on student protesters, which received high criticism, both domestically and internationally. Hundreds of students poured into the streets demanding justice for the incident, and it was later revealed that 3 buses were involved in the accident. All 3 drivers were arrested, along with 2 assistants. The Bangladesh police at that time filed 34 cases against protesters and arrested at least 37 of them. So I'm going to move from this Bangladesh and down here to Nigeria, and also point out some of the things that they were complaining about in 2018. I believe are things that we also should complain about here, and that is proper systems and proper checks with regards who we allow to drive. How many Nigerians really go through a driving test before they get a driver's license? How many Nigerians really understand traffic laws? Drive around Lagos this morning. You get to a red light, and some drivers even make you feel foolish for stopping at a red light. The way that they drive through it and not even care that the traffic light is red or says stop. And so I believe that there are some things that we need to. It may not be the biggest challenge in Nigeria today. In the news this morning, remember I shared that a couple of youth corps members died on their way to camp in road accidents. Last week, we also shared, about dozens who also passed on in road accidents in certain parts of Nigeria. There needs to be better, and it's not because accidents don't happen in developed countries. Yes, they do, but I believe that there need to be better institutions and systems to reduce, the possibility of a road crash. Better licensing for drivers, better, car and road worthiness, and also better roads themselves. The amount of gallops and, potholes and the likes that you see on Nigerian roads today sometimes, lead to accidents. And, we don't need to wait for a protest before, we take action and do what is right and what is necessary. This also is a good time to point out that what triggers protests sometimes, cannot be predicted. The things that can lead to a massive, massive nationwide protest sometimes cannot be predicted. Same thing with the NSAS protest. It had been building up for a bit. The frustration had been building up. But not very many people expected that, it was the incident in Delta State that would eventually lead to the nationwide protest. And so, same thing with Bangladesh. It was this particular accident that happened that, of course, led to the nationwide protest or students' protests in Bangladesh for better road safety laws and road safety regulations. You can never tell when, it will happen, but it doesn't mean, that there is no anger building here and there. With different, regards. Sometimes it might be with regards to healthcare, it might be with aviation, it might be with infrastructure, it might be with insecurity. There's anger building in certain corners, and you can never just tell which one would be, the particular incident that will, spark the flame. That's for Bangladesh. Now let's come down here to Nigeria. In 1966, if you have, of course, studied Nigeria's history with coups, then you would know this day, 29th of July, 1966. It is called the day that, of course, the counter-coup occurred. Sometime also in 1966, on the 15th of January, there was the first coup which took place, and of course, which was started by Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogo, as it's popularly called, led to the death of Nigeria's Prime Minister at the time, Tafawa Balewa, and 21 others. Aguiyi Ironsi eventually took over, government after the first coup on the 15th of January 1966. This led to the coup being tagged and being seen as an Igbo coup, mostly because, according to the way that the story is told, there's a lot of people who would say absolutely not. But, according to the way the story is told, it seems like it was an Igbo coup because, of course, Aguiyi Ironsi took over, and the number of officers that were killed, allegedly, were from the north, including the Prime Minister. This continued until this day, July 29th in 1966, when the counter-coup took place. And this, of course, was led by Murtala Mohammed, led to the death of Aguiyi Ironsi and Fajui, who were both in Ibadan at that time. I've read the story. It's a very interesting story of how they were accosted and dragged out of the house, taken to, according to some of the stories that I read, taken to a forest or bush rather, and they just never made it back home alive. But there's some important aspects of this that I thought it would be interesting to share, and that is some of the people who were part of this counter coup. I earlier mentioned Murtala Mohammed. was the one who led the coup. But there was also Theophilus Danjuma. I'm going to quickly share. He was a Major Theophilus Danjuma at that time. He was the Principal Staff Officer, Army Headquarters in Lagos. There was also Major Abba Kyari, Artillery in Kaduna. Other names that you might find interesting, Lieutenant Muhammadu Buhari from the 2nd Brigade in Lagos. There's also... what's his name now? I'm going to quickly share that name. There's also 2nd Lieutenant Sani Abacha, who was also a part of the counter coup. And there's also Ibrahim Babangida. I'm trying to find where his name was written. Yes, he's also a lieutenant of the 1st Reconnaissance Squadron in Kaduna, Ibrahim Babangida. I thought those names are pretty interesting to share as, some of the people who carried out the counter coup in 1966. That eventually led to the death of Aguiyi Ironsi and Fajiri and a couple of others. And so when people, of course, talk about the persons who have been, somehow, some way, in Nigeria's political and governance, space for many, many years, for decades, these names always come up, either because of their involvement in one thing or the other, or because of their, position in, Aso Rock, or because they were military administrators at some point. But there are certain names that always come up: the Danjumas, the Sani Abachas, the Babangidas, the Buharis, and sometimes the Olusegun Obasanjos, always just show up here and there because of their roles in, where Nigeria currently is today, and and shaping Nigeria's history. Sometimes, because of actions that they believed were the right things to do, sometimes out of their own selfish interest, sometimes maybe just because, well, it had to happen. But these names will forever be in Nigeria's history because of certain roles that they, played, and certain, parts that they played, at some time or the other. And I'm going back now, rather than what I'm speaking about now is as far back as 1966. The Biafran War started a year later, 1967, and of course lasted till 69 or 70? 69, I believe. 70, I beg your pardon. So yes, today in history, 1966, and that is the counter coup led by Murtala Mohammed and Theophilus Danjuma, who of course were not generals at that time. Lieutenant Sani Abacha, Lieutenant, what's his name now, Muhammadu Buhari, and of course Ibrahim Babangida were some of the other people. There was all others that were also part of it, but these were the major names that I thought to mention. Our next conversation this morning, our major conversation, is on the agitations for self-determination. We're going to be speaking with a senior advocate of Nigeria, Paul Ananaba, who will be joining us to share his thoughts on what Nigeria currently is dealing with regards to calls for self-determination in the southeast, in the southwest also, and in other aspects. So we're getting into that right after this short break here on The Breakfast. Stay with us. Good morning once again.
we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Boko, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church. Our God is a God of salvation, far above all principality and power and might and dominion, that regardless of what happens in this season, you will escape. Say to your neighbor, there is no peace for the wicked. The lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting, but diligence is a man's precious possession. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
Moment of Truth with Pastor Tunde Bakare. Sundays, 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Are you ready to party right from the comfort of your TV screen? The Rundown's here to save the day. From freshly baked videos to the classics to the youngins and dope conversations, all in one chart. We got you covered. Just tune in to The Rundown every Friday, 10:30 p.m. West African time. The Rundown. Let's turn it up.
Good morning and welcome once again to The Breakfast here on Plus TV Africa. Our next conversation is coming down here to Lagos, and we're going to be having reactions from the local government elections that took place last week, Saturday. This morning I'm speaking with Adedayo Adeshoye, who was the candidate for Chairman Amu Odofin local government area in the elections. Good morning and thanks for joining us, Mr. Adeshoye. Can you hear us, Mr. Adeshoye?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, my brother.
All right.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks very much. I want us to, of course, have a conversation with regards, your reaction to the elections on Saturday. There is many points that have been made, with voter apathy, and some of all of that. There was also conversations on rigging, or rather allegations of rigging that were made. But let's start with, the process itself. For you, what were your biggest challenges?
Yeah. I will be very brief and precise. We had a stakeholders meeting with the LASEC boss at Alimosho, and she made us realize that due process will be followed. That is, at the polling unit, the results were meant to be announced. From there, they moved to the World Coalitions Center, where the results for the councillorship will be announced, with the figures for the chairmanship noted. At the final coalition center, which went to the local government council, where all results from all the wards, 7 wards will be taken and correlated, reconciled before the final announcement will be made. So I was surprised, just before the election ended, some LASEC officials, the PC meaning polling clerk, the presiding officer and supervising presiding officer, SPO, immediately some of them, if not because some of our agents were strong, they forced them to announce results in some of the polling units. The rest, they took them away, straight to the local government, bridging the procedure from going to the World Coalition Center. All the World Coalition Centers, our agents were there, they found nobody. They were curious, they started making calls, and they found out that they already moved the ballot boxes from all the polling units straight to the local government, which is a bridging procedure. And at the local government secretariat, our agents were driven out. They were forced out by thugs. The local government secretariat is a sacred ground for all Amu Odofin residents. On that day, in the presence of the police officers, thugs used machetes, used rods, used guns. They shot at our agents, our supervisors.
Where exactly did this happen?
Inside the local government secretariat. Inside the local government secretariat. That is meant to be a sacred ground. The election was marred with malpractices, election rigging, snatching of ballot boxes, attack on our special duties agents who were going around, and security operatives were put on ground to ensure that when they had problem, hotspots, they could quickly go in to intervene. We have evidences, even some POPC in their bags having ballot boxes. Some were asked, how many ballot boxes ballot papers are we expected to have? We found out that some of these officials had ballot papers even in their bags with the hope they will go and change the figures and tamper them. I want to say that the amount of people are residents. The amount of people came all out, not minding any party, but looking for the right candidate to change the amount of it. And Sir Adedayo, Ademilola Adesoye is the candidate they've chosen. They voted for me, and I know where we should go to follow due procedure. The tribunal is there. We'll follow the due process to ensure that our mandate, the mandate of the Amodofi residents, are not denied. Although the initial results, I want to call it a tentative result, a forged result, a cooked up result. Even to the extent that the collation officers who are meant to be at the world centers to gather results were changing figures, mutilating the sheets. It's so embarrassing that at this age and time, people have lost value in human dignity. I want to say thank you for this opportunity in asking some of these questions. I think that's what I have in brief. If you have further questions, I'll answer you.
Mr. Adesoye, so the elections were, we're going to get into detail of some of the things that you mentioned, but the elections were seen and reported as very peaceful. The only major challenge that was stated was really voter apathy and the fact that a lot of people didn't show up to vote. So, you saying that there was violence and there was guns and, and cutlasses and the likes, how come none of this, was reported and we didn't get to see, any of this in the news stories that were made, even from Amodofi? And then second, what evidence, are you speaking about that you have?
Thank you very much. Your bullets, your jokers are with you. I want to let you know that even if you take an investigative measure to go to Amodofi, even yesterday, the residents of Amodofi came all out to protest, to hear their grievance. It has never been Amodofi, in the history of Amodofi, where talks came into the sacred ground, the local government secretariat. The local government secretariat is for all. It's for all, whether partisan, irrespective of your religious background, irrespective of your gender and color. The local government secretariat is for all. But to our surprise, our agents were chased out with guns. In presence of the police who were standing there, I want to commend the DSS. The DSS from the Lagos Command, they intervened. By the time they came in, the damage has been done, but they tried to salvage it. But even with the late hour that our agents were allowed into the secretariat, we're still able to also discover some of their malpractices. Because when you lie, you have to lie to 100 people and try to cover that lie. Unfortunately, it became a mess. It became a mess. Even during the announcements, they made lots of mistakes, terrible mistakes. And I want to let you know, as from the amount of people come around and they will tell you the extent of violence. False, I'm telling you, area boys, thugs, it cannot be fathomed.
Is there video clips that were taken at this time that can show, that can be presented, either to media or to the court?
Yeah, there are lots of clips. Not even is there. There are lots of clips that even as I speak, the amount of it, if you give them a link, they'll be bombarding your station. The link with videos. Residents have videos. Residents have videos. They have pictures. Agents who were shot at, our supervisors who were shot at. I'm telling you, it is, I mean, imagine, is this the future we are looking for? A future for the youth, a future for the elderly? At this time and age, when people are thinking how to solve solutions, look for solutions, we are building talks. Talks are meant to be sent to schools, sent to technical colleges, trained on how to make their life better. That's what I have to say for now. Thank you for this.
All right, Mr. Adesoye, what steps are you are planning to take? After of course, these things have happened. Are you going to court? Is there going to be are you approaching the tribunal?
That's the procedure. When you want to deny the mandate of the people, you cannot do that. I can cook. I can buy 20 cows for a gathering, and my guest will finish it. The people I invite to finish it. But if a community cooks just 2 cows, not 20 cows, imagine that is what the incumbent has done by what he did on that day. So the community now, a mode of people are now, cooking the cow that he has to consume. Because it has got to the point that people are beginning to ask themselves, do we have a future? First time that used to be the London of Africa. A mode of it used to be the beauty of Africa. Adosoba, the Riverine. If you go to this place, you begin to shed tears. That are these people, are they human beings? It's as if they are forgotten. It's as if they are forgotten. And that's what I start to bring. The procedure is laid down by LASEC. If you're not happy or satisfied, you have the tribunal. And that's we seek the line of justice. And I believe justice is in this country. And I stand by it. And I believe what happened in those states between Jegede and Governor Akeredewale is what will, not only in Amodofi, all over Lagos, Etiosa, Agege, just name them. The PDP state chairman, they are already gathering their evidences for them to forge ahead to ensure that our mandates, out of about 20 local governments, 37 LCD, at least PDP stands a chance with the tribunal to at least get some of these local governments. We are not asking for all. We are not greedy. We are not asking for all. But where justice needs to prevail, what we want, evidently, we will get it. Like Modavi is a good example. Agege is another good example. Etios is another good example. If I continue to mention, because of time, I want to stop here.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
But let's also talk about LASEC now. What's the response from them? If you say that there was violence in Amodofi polling units and people were attacked and ballot boxes were snatched, what's the response from LASEC itself?
We've written a report of how the election went in Amodofi to the LASEC boss in the person of retired Justice Phillips, which has been acknowledged. And in addition to that, I want to let you know, in case I forgot to mention it, some of the LASEC officials were kidnapped on that day of election. 4 of them were kidnapped that were meant to be at Eko Akiti police station, polling unit. 4 of them were kidnapped. Thank God for information they come from one of the LASEC officials who called in, and the security details attached to me went there to confirm, and what they met there was a mess. They shot at our people at that center, but my joy is that those 4 officials were freed.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is because, LASEC itself doesn't seem to be complaining about the way the elections were run in any of the local governments in Lagos.
What do you expect when people try to hide the truth? The video evidences and the protest. Yesterday, I was moved by what the residents of Amodofi did. To my surprise, I got calls, left, right, center, that there are people on ground carrying out a peaceful protest. Even with the peaceful protest, some of the residents, because They see me now as a leader. They have to call him. But what can I do to free them? And to the glory of God, we make the necessary contact, and 4 of them were released yesterday night around 7:30 at the First Area Command for having a peaceful protest. I asked some questions. What procedures do you take? You know, even during a rally, we wrote to the Commissioner of Police, we wrote to the area commander, we wrote to the DPO, the DSS, the LSNC. We did all the necessary. Those are the questions I asked. And I was given a feedback that they wrote a letter informing the Commissioner of Police, informing the area commander, informing the DPO, informing the DSS of this that peaceful rally. I can mention names, people who were kidnapped, but for security purpose, I want to stop here.
Yeah.
4 of them were kidnapped, but thank God for timely intervention, they have been released.
Yeah, all right. And you mentioned, what you expect from people who want to hide the truth. Does that mean that LASIK itself, according to what you're saying, is hiding the fact that elections weren't peaceful in Amuodofi and there might have been some rigging and ballot box snatching?
Yeah, we're snatched. I want to let you know this election wasn't an election between PDP and APC. It was an election between APC and the residents of Amuodofi. It is, in fact, the election moved away from party to the community against a party that has not performed, that has left Amuodofi in pace. Come to Amuodofi, do a video tour, and you begin to share tears. With all the allocation coming to the local government, you begin to ask questions. What could be wrong? Where did we miss it? Go to the riverine, you share tears. Go to Adosoba, you share tears. Matu and Festa are assets that you don't need to maintain. When you get there, you ask yourself, is this where people came all over the world in 1977, Festa 77, to celebrate the African culture? We've traveled around the world. Assets of this nature are maintained and made a tourism center. Today, Festa Amuodofi, Matu are no longer tourism center, but places whereby people shed tears and say, we are moving out of this community. Thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Adesoye, what would your response be if the other political parties say that it was the PDP who brought thugs to these polling units because they, saw that they couldn't win? What would your response be to that?
Thank you very much. A house divided against itself can never stand. I can't send thugs to arm my agents. I can't send thugs to arm my supervisors. Even the military details that I had with me will also give their own experience. And I'm a man of peace. And I've always followed the procedures, even before, during the election, and after the election. And you need to do your investigation and get feelers from the residents of Amuodofi. It's a pity, these boys they are using, they are not leading them in the right direction. Awolowo, late Awolowo, he started a foundation to educate people of the Southwest. The second generation, Second Republic, late Jacote, he just had 4 years, 3 months, and he performed wonders. I'm a beneficiary today. I went to public primary school, Fort Avenue Primary School, Festa Grammar School, where presently I'm the President General of Festa Grammar School Association. My character and quality can speak for me. And if we continue in this line, I pity the coming generation. Today I can speak anywhere in the world, because I was privileged to have politicians. In Yoruba, we call them Oshelu. But the current set of politicians we have in Yoruba, we call them Ojelu. I'm saying this because I pity those boys. I pity that I shed tears every day. What I want planted and Jaconde continued. I cry when I see our youth, Yoruba youth, chasing buses, chasing Okada, chasing Mawa. That was not their dream for us. I keep asking some of the ones that gathered them together, is it a job you can hand over to your children? this job you are doing, is it a job we can guarantee that you have long life and prosperity? If you go to the UK, go to the US, you find that as citizens, they have moved above that level. Foreigners come to do the low-level work, unskilled work. Even with our skilled labor force going to the UK, going to the US, we do their skilled work because they have moved their people above. And that is my dream for our race. I'm not tribalistic. As many Igbos, Hausas, Niger Delta we have in Amodofi, I want them to also move above board. I pray that with this mandate, if by the special grace of God, is given to the rightful winner, which is Sir Adida Adishoye, and the tribunal, Amodofi will experience what they've never believed. They will say, can this happen in our time? That will be their testimony. I'm not asking for a term. I'm not asking for 2 terms. I'm only asking for a chance to govern the Amodofi people. And I will see the difference. Then at that point, it is not left for the Amodofi people, for people to ask if they want me or at the federal level, because it's going to be a tussle between the federal level and the Amodofi people, to say, this man, let him finish what he has started. Or the federal level say, this man he needs to serve at a higher capacity. Thank you and God bless.
All right. Just before we go, I think I can also quickly ask you with, what you have planned, for Amodofi, and if we can get, some clarity. The local government receives, on average, 150 to 250 million monthly. Where do you think Amodofi lacks, proper funding or proper implementation or use of these funds?
Okay, thank you very much. Even without the federal allocation, if you have a leader who has a pragmatic approach to revenue generation without the federal allocation, remember, Lagos State survived under the regime of our then President Olusegun Obasanjo because of the creation of the LCDA. In addition to local government, they were denied funds, which later came to them. Within this period, Lagos State survived with internally generated revenue. Amodofi is blessed. Like I mentioned, the riverine area near Dockyard, Niger Dock, Festac, Amodofi, Adosoba. We have lots of places where you can generate funds. When even the people, by the time they see what you are doing, with this generated funds, they'll be willing to give us money.
Yeah. So what I'm asking is, can you share, with me, 1 or 2 of these areas that funds can be generated, and of course, what you feel the local government office should be responsible for with the funds that it generates, and how those funds can be better used.
Yeah. Thank you very much. One, we have lots of commercial centers around us, commercial activities that are even willing to even do more. They are willing to do more if they see that presence of a leader who can lead them aright. A good example, I like being practical. Festac Grammar School, Old Station. We came into power in 2017. People never believed that things can change in Festac Grammar School. When we swung into action, I'm telling you, people from abroad, in the UK, in the US, even in Nigeria, they started pumping in money. When they saw what we brought on board, our personal monies, personal contribution, and when they saw the programs we had, in fact, they were surprised. One of our approaches, the digital base, digital literacy. With the digital innovation, we're going to ensure that every data, every fund generated, every fund supplied from the federal will be judiciously utilized in terms of infrastructural development, in terms of education, healthcare. Those key areas, sectors are key. Is it the roads we are talking about? Is a far cry of what we generate monthly. And I want to let you know that There are professionals in Amodofi who are willing to sacrifice their time and money to give us their own part of their community responsibility. That's community responsibility to building their society. I think I want to stop here.
All right. Mr. Adeshoye, we'll say thank you for your time this morning. We hope that you can, if possible, share some of those clips with us, so we can build on that report, and also look further into some of the, allegations that you've made. And I'm talking about the clips now on the violence, in Amodofi during the elections on Saturday. Thuggery, ballot box snatching, and some other things that you've mentioned. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any of it on all the other media platforms, not even on social media. But if you have some of those, it would be great that you share with us so that we can look further into it. But thank you very much for your time this morning, and we wish you an interesting day ahead.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. The residents of Amodofi will send you pictures, they will send you videos. Just tell us the link, and you'll be so surprised. Not even me. The residents will right away. They will be sending you videos, pictures, clips, overwhelming evidences. Not even from me, because this election is not my election. It is the election, and the election for change. Thank you very much.
Right.
And good morning.
Good morning to you. All right, that was Adesoye, Adedayo Adesoye, the local government chairman candidate of the PDP in the just concluded local government elections in Lagos State for Amodofi. We'll take a short break. When we come back, the breakfast continues.
The way your baby's presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken. Of you? Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
have
showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, "You can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house." I said, "Well, it's my body and it's my front room."
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there's regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
200 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast, and this is where we will be drawing the curtain this morning. We apologize for not being able to bring the conversation on self-agitation, but of course we will reschedule that for a different day on The Breakfast. Looking forward to having that conversation, absolutely. We wish you a beautiful day ahead. If you missed out on any of the conversations we had this morning, from the PDP to our top trending stories, and of course today in history, and also off the press with Ezekiel Nyaitok, you can catch up on our social media platforms. It's simply at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram. And also check out our YouTube page, subscribe at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa. I'll see you at 9 a.m.
Hepatitis is a major global health issue affecting millions of people around the world. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, hepatitis affects more than 354 million people worldwide.
Hepatitis means inflammation of the liver. Inflammation means when the liver has suffered an injury or has been exposed to some toxic agents, then it results in injury of the liver. And it can be caused by infectious or non-infectious agents. So when I say infectious agent, it can be caused by hepatitis viruses, like hepatitis A, hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C, hepatitis E, hepatitis D viruses. So those are the infectious causes. Then talking about the infectious agents, you may want to ask, how are we exposed to these infectious agents?